The chair noted that in her opening remarks.
DOGE here.
Now, Madam Chair, you know how much I enjoy studying public opinion. So with your approval, I'd like to enter into the record the CBS News poll from this past weekend conducted February 5th to 7th, 2025. And I'd also like to illuminate two findings. First, 70% of Americans, Democrats and Republicans included, believe President Trump is already doing the job that he was elected to.
100%.
Which is interesting because I have an article here from CNN from September 2024 that notes Trump says Elon Musk has agreed to lead proposed government efficiency commission as ex-president unveils new economic plans. So he is doing exactly what he said he would do by empowering his administration to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here today. I'd also like to note one interesting statistic from that. 62% of Americans want Democrats in Congress to work with us to advance the priorities that President Trump was elected to govern on. So I think those are two stats that I hope everyone pays attention to. But to ask questions of our witnesses, I'd first like to start with Mr. Talcove. You know, one of the things that I found very interesting from your opening testimony is you talked, and I think you engaged with Mr. Burchett on the 1974 Privacy Act. And I had some interesting folks visit my office yesterday who noted that 1/3 of all prior authorizations are still done manually by phone, fax, or direct post mail. First off, would love your comments on that, and I'd also like for you to expound upon some of the solutions that we can deliver to this Congress in modernizing that 1974 Privacy Act.
These aren't people problems. These are technology problems. You can't process the number of individuals that are accessing our systems person by person. It just takes too much time. So by updating the 1974 Privacy Act and allowing for digital matching, you would have very quickly realized that a large portion of the PPP loan funds were going to the wrong person. You would have been quickly able to match. And I think the number was 20% were on the do not pay list. You can't expect people to do what a machine, and especially AI, can do today.
Fair enough. Thank President Trump effectuate in his administration. And I have to imagine that if we have departments and agencies outside of DC, we've got a workforce that's more reflective of the balance that America is. At the same time, too, could potentially root out some of this waste, fraud, and abuse by enabling other Americans, other citizens of our country to help advance some of these issues. So would love your commentary on that before my time expires.
No, I think you're exactly right, Congressman Jack. And so I think, you'd save a lot of taxpayer money. So building a headquarters in downtown DC versus Huntsville, Alabama, you're going to be able to save a lot of money. Number two, you're actually going to make life better for the employees as well. So that's a point that's also missed a lot, but commuting into DC versus being able to go somewhere else where it's a better cost of living and things like that might be better for the folks. And then lastly, these areas where you set up a headquarters are going to be populated by people that live in the area to fill the rank and file of staff positions. And so if you plant these federal agency headquarters in the heart of any area that's overwhelmingly one party or the other, then you're going to naturally get that sway versus something that's more representative of the people as a whole.
Well, thank you very much, our witnesses. Mindful of my time, I want to finish before my time expires. I yield back to our chairwoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Thank you.
And Chairwoman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent to enter something into the record.
So what is it?
It is a report from the Congressional Research Service, nonpartisan CRS, that lays out the rules and the law for firing inspectors general, which of course look into waste, fraud, and abuse. And
without objection.
Thank you. And that rule requires for the law to be followed, for Congress to be notified with 30 days and a reason for firing inspectors general to give Congress a chance to overrule that, and that's the law. So thank you for
entering that. Since this was a bad scene, Donna, a real bad scene.
Without objection, the materials Mr. Jack cited are also submitted for the record. I now recognize.
Apologies. While we're on it, I'd also like to ask for unanimous consent to submit for the record 2 items. One is a statement from the AFL-CIO, Department of People who work for a living with views on working people to make the government work. And the second is a statement from the Center for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington on ways to combat waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government.
I'm just going to go to the beach.
So ordered. I now recognize the gentlelady from New Mexico and ranking member Ms. Stansbury for 5 minutes.
We're going to the beach.
All right. Well, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you once again to all of our witnesses for being here to testify. Thank you to my colleagues. We are going to have so much fun in this committee, this Congress.
Thank you.
I actually appreciate the video that was shown just a few moments ago, because when I worked at the Office of Management and Budget, I actually worked on the waste EO that was referenced that President Obama signed. But there is one fundamental difference between the presidents and vice presidents that were shown on that video and what's happening today, and that is that they followed the law. So my colleagues across the aisle who are asking us to get out of the way and stop trying to block things in the courts, let me tell you, we do not work for an unelected billionaire like apparently this guy does. We work for the American people. And so if an unelected, unvetted individual private citizen is hacking our government systems, breaking the law, firing federal employees, dismantling
you might be a criminal.
Created agencies, withholding funds, we are going to fight you in the courts. And I'm actually really sad that my dear friend Mr. Burchett left, because I want to talk about that gravy train on biscuit wheels that he just talked about, because that gravy train is not the federal workforce, it's the billionaires that are trying to hack.
You hear this woman screeching, my MAGA hat, screeching about the billionaire, the unelected billionaire who is affecting her paycheck. Yeah, she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. I didn't like George Soros meddling in my country's affairs either, did you? I didn't like Bill Gates telling everybody that they need to get jabbed. I didn't appreciate that either. Just saying. Just saying. These people are so... They're getting paid and they're getting mad because they're not going to get paid anymore. Hi, Laura. So well, that yapping's going on in the background. I'm going to just drive to the beach. I am very upset today. I just found out that the tooth that's broken, you know, the fake teeth that I have, they're so fake they're falling out of my mouth. Yeah, pretty soon I'm going to have fake teeth because my teeth apparently are not long for this world, according to my new dentist. I have a new dentist because my dentist had a medical emergency. So now I'm with a new dentist who, and I believe him. I know it's true. And this tooth has to be pulled. And I am absolutely devastated over this news. Hi, Laura. For one, I'm devastated about the tooth because look where it is. It's one of my goodies in the front. I'm gonna look like a hillbilly. not that there's anything wrong with that, but so yes, I'm going to have the hillbilly look for a little while. We'll see how that goes. $5,500 later, I will have an implant. So it's not a real good day for me. And then I have to hear these Congress people screeching, literally screeching about Elon Musk and President Trump being billionaires who are actually uncovering the illegality of the past administration, of everything they've done to us. Well, thank you, Final Frontier. Thank you for that. I'm crying over $5,500 because that's a lot of money, and that's only the tip of the iceberg with me, according to my dentist. This tooth is the future of many more teeth in my mouth, and they're all going to break eventually. He called my teeth a house of cards. Yes, that's my mouth. It's a house of cards. All right, well, we're going to the beach. You guys look at that. The beach is ahead. I mean, right dead ahead. That's the beach. My beautiful Fort Lauderdale Strip beach. Not that we strip on it, but it's on the strip. Thank you, Laura. I know. They are beautiful teeth. So it's not him, it's me, Laura. I apparently brought this on myself. I ate too much candy when I was a child. I smoked cigarettes for like 20 years of my life, and that was bad. And he kept saying, he was like, "Are you a smoker?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, when you used to be a smoker, yeah, you did the damage." There's no second opinion, Donna. I know it's true. And Dr. Stanton came highly recommended from my current dentist. So I'm not getting ripped off. It's not the dentist's fault. It's mine. And I gotta suck it up, Buttercup. Yes, I will have Dr. Noodleberg look at the x-ray. I'm getting the tooth out on Monday. There is an infection. I know this. I know that everything Dr. Stanton said was true. I know that. He's not doing anything to hurt me. So yeah, Thomas Roy, do you trust Google? Is that where you get your information from? Google? Really? I don't understand that. Google is not news. In fact, Google's run by people who literally hate this country and have been on the gravy train. They've already said in the DOGE hearings that big tech is taking most of took trillions. Listen.
Targeted states and schools and people who were disagreed with his view of the radical left's transgender ideology. Where were they whenever Gary Gensler, former chairman of the SEC, also unelected,
clearly, Laura,
was lawlessly thwarting the development of financial markets, particularly in the crypto space, by lawlessly pursuing regulation via enforcement? They were nowhere to be seen because they don't care, because all of those things benefited their side of the aisle at the expense of ours. And perhaps that's also why they don't seem to be very interested in rooting out improper payments from our federal government. If you wonder why so many people are cynical about American politics, this is it. This is exactly why. The reality is that Elon Musk serves as an employee of the president, and we were given a massive mandate to carry out what he's been doing.
Thank you, Final.
His job is to carry out the will of the American people as expressed through the executive. That's exactly how the Constitution is supposed to work. The Constitution did not create an unelected, unaccountable fourth branch of government in the administrative state. The American people know this. My colleague Brian Jack discussed some of the opinion polls recently. We are doing, and President Trump is doing, exactly what he was elected to do. And that's why he's polling at a 53% approval rating, higher than he was at any point during his first administration.
That's good it's raining.
Even Elon Musk and his DOGE efforts now
LA
are polling at a 49% approval rating, which, just to point out, is 16 points higher than President Biden was polling at whenever he finished his term in office. The Democrat Party has for decades systematically grown and weaponized the administrative state against the American people, and the American people have had enough of it. Right now, we're talking about $2.7 trillion in improper payments since 2003. We're uncovering what could be the biggest money laundering scandal in American history.
That's right.
And the other side of the aisle could care less. They have no concern about where this money went, to what entities it went, to what governments, to what people or groups. Nothing. All they want to talk about is Elon Musk incessantly. So it does make me wonder, if they don't care about where it's going, do they have an idea?
They clearly
because what
don't.
we've uncovered so far is that so much of the waste, fraud, and abuse of our federal government is actually funding their side of the aisle. It's funding media outlets that are run cover for Democrats routinely. the NPR, PBS, the BBC, Politico. It's going to fund left-wing NGOs that are facilitating the invasion of our country. It's going to fund left-wing transgender activism and sex changes all over the globe. This is money that's being used, taken from the American people and used against their interests. If you care about rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, we should be serious about this. I'm very excited to be on this committee. I'm excited to expose what's being going on. Thank you, Madam Chair, and with that, I yield.
The gentleman yields. In closing, I want to thank our witnesses again for their testimonies today. I now yield to the ranking member for closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Well, I never thought so many conspiracy theories and my friends across the aisle. First of all, let's talk about this massive mandate that supposedly brought Donald Trump into office. Donald Trump did not run on putting an unelected billionaire in charge of dismantling.
Oh my
the
God,
federal
stop
government.
with the unelected
He
billionaire
ran
crap.
on lowering prices for Americans. And I think it's interesting that while
look at
we're
this
sitting
baby.
here this morning, the top of the New York Times is reporting that inflation has risen unexpectedly as food and energy prices have soared. What's going on, guys? I thought you were going to tackle inflation and food and energy prices. Isn't that what the executive orders were supposed to do? Oh, wait. Or is dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion and our federal agencies and putting an ideological agenda and trying to fire the federal workforce your actual agenda? Have you?
Okay, yes, it is our actual agenda, biatch. I am so sorry to break it to you, Democrats, but we are tired of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Seriously, we are tired of paying for it all over the world. And when I hear people like this little redhead screaming, look at her, look at how she's grinning right now. This is the grin of a diabolical maniac who has been stealing from you for the past 4 years and thinks you are a fool. And she doesn't want her gravy train to end. So now she's going to call Elon Musk an unelected billionaire, ignoring the fact that she let George Soros, an unelected billionaire, literally run our country into the dust. This is despicable. Look at her face. I don't even care what she's saying. She's got a superiority complex. She thinks that she is due all of this ill-begotten gains. Look at the way she talks. She literally is a clown who thinks that she has pulled one over on the American people. Let's hear what this person is saying. She represents the American people.
Mr. Elon
Sure.
Musk, if you would like
She
to
does
appear
not.
in front of the Oversight Committee, you have been duly invited.
Oh, they're super
Please
angry that
come
Elon's
tell
not
us
there.
what you're doing. Come testify in front of the American people, and please come hold yourself to account. With that, I yield back.
And by the way, girlfriend, that's
The
hold
gentlelady
yourself
yields.
accountable.
I now recognize myself for closing remarks.
Thank you, Marjorie
President
Taylor
Trump was
Greene.
elected with a mandate
Listen.
to rein in unaccountable bureaucracy in Washington and to wage war on waste. I know that because I campaigned alongside him, and so did my colleagues. This hearing was the first battle of that war, and in the coming days, the subcommittee will release a report with legislative solutions to the problems we have identified here today. We aren't going to wait all the way until the end of this Congress. We're going to get to work immediately. The bureaucrats who have run Washington for decades are beyond the point of forgiveness. Their sheer incompetence and pure spite for the hardworking American people have resulted in total failure. The federal government has made over $2.7 trillion in improper payments since 2003, including $236 billion in 2023 alone. Those are trillions of dollars that honest Americans have paid in taxes at gunpoint over the years. As we approach April 15th,
That's right.
Americans are once again preparing to do their taxes and fork over their unfair share of money it takes to run this country. And I have to tell you, the American people have not been getting their money's worth for a long time. Most improper payments in recent years were issued through 5 programs: Medicare, Medicaid, the Earned Income Tax Credit, Pandemic Unemployment Insurance, and the Paycheck Protection Program. But a total of 16 federal programs had improper payment rates of 10% or more in 2023. That includes SNAP, the federal food stamp program, which paid out 10 billion taxpayer dollars improperly. To get their arms around this problem, illegal payments issued annually. The audit of these payment systems was long overdue. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent gave DOGE employees working for the government read-only access to these systems so they could conduct that initial audit. That audit is already paying dividends. Musk learned that the databases federal agencies are supposed to check to prevent payments to fraudsters, crime rings, and dead people are not being kept up to date. Going forward, we are going to get more mileage out of these do not pay databases. That means fewer improper payments and less fraud and waste of taxpayer dollars. Despite this fraud that's already been revealed, a federal judge in New York issued a ruling last Friday that ran totally contrary to the will of the people.
Thanks, Donna.
The judge blocked not only DOGE, but the Treasury Secretary himself from accessing his own agency's payment systems. That's absurd. Only career Treasury Department unelected bureaucrats can access the system, the judge ruled. This turns the Constitution on its head. We will hold this judge and others who try to stop the will of the people and their elected leaders accountable. As is written in the Federalist Papers, the judiciary has no influence over either the sword or the purse, no direction either of the strength or the wealth of the society. It may truly be said to have neither force nor will, but merely judgment, and must ultimately depend upon the aid of the executive arm for the efficacy of its judgments. But the whole DC swamp is freaking out that the unelected officials from DOGE were allowed access to these systems. That makes no sense. Federal judges were not elected. The Treasury bureaucrats were not elected, and they have failed to fix the problem that is enabling American taxpayers to be robbed. So why not bring in skilled outside experts like private companies and private citizens who are successful in the real world to do everyday work that we need to get done here, like audits? Of course, federal payment systems are only one link in the improper payment chain. We need to look at other links in the chain. We need better front-end identify verification to screen out fraudsters, and we need to close eligibility loopholes. That means not letting applicants self-attest to their own eligibility. And it means ending categorical eligibility, which lets someone who fraudulently qualifies for one federal benefit automatically get other federal benefits. Finally, we need to better coordinate fraud prevention efforts between federal governments and the states. These are all issues that we will be taking a hard look at in this committee and coming up with solutions to, including legislation and referrals to committees of jurisdiction that will deliver for the American people. With that and without objection, all members have 5 legislative days within which to submit materials and additional written questions for the witnesses, which will be forwarded to the witnesses. If there is no further business without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.
Alrighty then. The first DOGE hearing has been adjourned. Very interesting and very obvious who's ripping off this country and who wants to see it fixed. So if you use some discernment, it's pretty easy to see that there are a lot of criminals out there, and the people who are fighting for those criminals to keep getting their payoff pretty disgusting. They must be criminals too. The American people have been raped and pillaged. And it's disgusting. And COVID was more than the worst thing that ever happened to us. It was a crime, not just against humanity, but against in everything that we believe in and stand for. Meanwhile, you may have noticed I'm dealing with a tragedy myself where the dentist just informed me that this tooth that I lost the filling out of, I basically broke in half, and it's not salvageable. So, wait, what's going on?
Over what we're doing with 37 trillion now, but
37
add
trillion.
the agents, the mandatory spending we have on Social Security, as examples, going bankrupt in 35. Highway Trust Fund running in balance. What level do you think will give you, I guess, some assurance that we're going to get our house in order?
This is questioning Jerome Powell.
Oh, I don't have a specific number. It wouldn't be appropriate, but I will say this: in having looked at this,
I would be lying too.
the successful plans to programs to get back on the right track, they tend to make progress over a long period of time. In other words, you've got to get to a place
We don't
where
have
the
a long
economy is
period of
growing
time.
faster than the debt, and then you need to stay on that path for 20 years. This is not the kind of thing where we can fix it overnight. We just need to be making progress. And right now,
This
we're
is
running
Chairman
very
of
large
the Fed,
deficits at a
Jerome
time of full
Powell.
employment. So we need to start moving. You're either making progress.
This
or
guy
you're
had
not
his
right now
hands
or not.
on the
So the key
controls
thing is to just,
for a very long time.
is for it to become a big issue, and then people work together. The things that need to be done
Wonder how much he's worth.
are things that can only be done on
Look
a
it up.
bipartisan basis. Only. These are things that need to be dealt with, cannot be dealt with by one political party. I'll leave you with that.
Well, one is criminal,
be
and
a
the other
tall order.
one
It is.
To get
The more
bipartisan.
Might
it
also
grows,
be
it gets
criminal.
taller every year.
but one is definitely
Yeah.
criminal.
It does.
Yeah.
That's one of my issues we're having now.
Sure.
The level of growth, you think, with what President Trump is doing with giving Americans confidence with the DOGE Commission, which is giving Americans hope that we're seeing things that are being spent of the taxpayers' dollars that we never imagined that we couldn't get to. Now he's exposing that. What level of growth do you think, with the confidence growing under Trump, that we will be able to reach this year and the years after? Because the 20 years you're talking about, we've got to have a pretty solid, it can't be, it's got to be, would you say 1.8, 2% growth of GDP?
For a long time, people thought that U.S. potential growth was a little bit below 2%. I think we've had we've had 5 years of good productivity growth, and we hope that'll continue. If that does continue, then it might be 2 or 2.25. If you're talking about long-term budget assumptions, though, I'd be conservative and say 2%.
You think that's doable?
2%, yes.
On another note, the
2%.
stress tests that banks run and that public has been given information on everything but how that stress test relates to them. Why is it not further? Why is it? Most people don't understand what it is. Why is it not broadcast more, in your opinion?
Why the stress tests?
Correct.
So the theory from the beginning was to not to disclose the whole models and the way that they worked, because in a way that felt like giving the test in advance. This was a brand new initiative that started coming out of the global financial crisis, very successful generally, but over time the argument for not giving away the models, giving the models out, has, I think, weakened, and also the law has moved. The Supreme Court has moved to reduce the level of deference given to agencies and increased our obligations to be transparent under the Administrative Procedure Act. And so it's time we think to disclose the models.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Gonzalez, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Chairman Powell, for joining us this morning. As you know, the United Kingdom, European Union, Mexico, Brazil, India, and Japan all allow non-bank payment service providers access to their instant payment services. This allows improved access to liquidity for users by ensuring they can send and receive payments instantly without waiting multiple days to access their money. I believe this is especially important for those who have tighter cash flows, and for those sending payments to loved ones abroad, both which happens quite frequently in South Texas and across the country. With that in mind,
Payments to
does
loved
the Federal
ones
Reserve
abroad.
plan to allow non-bank payment service providers access to FedNow payment rail?
We don't plan that right now. What we really want to do is to have the consumer not care. You know, the consumer can have an access, but our payment rails go through the banks, and so you have to go through a bank.
So there's no plans on changing that?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
Getting on the consumer price index, what consumer price index reading would cause you to cut rates? Is it 2% exactly, or is it a trend closer to 2%? How much more movement downward do you need to see in CPI for the Fed to start looking at rate cuts?
So remember, we're looking at two things. We're looking at the labor market and inflation. And so headline inflation last year was 2.6%. And we've said, assuming the labor market remains solid and strong, we want to see further progress. We didn't actually make much progress on core PCE inflation last year for reasons that I can explain, but nonetheless, the progress wasn't there. So we want to see a resumption of progress. I'm not going to put a really specific number on it. I mean, the truth is the economy is strong, the labor market.
I listen to this guy, and I have no idea what he's talking about, except, yeah, offshore accounts, exactly. Yeah, those are the loved ones abroad. They're offshore accounts. I listened to Jerome Powell, and I know that he is a fabulously wealthy bureaucrat. Unelected, I might add. Unelected. Did you elect Jerome Powell to be chairman of the Fed? Did you? I didn't. How long has he been chairman of the Fed? Is he a working class man? No. He is an elite. He has a lot of money. He's had his hands on the controls of the American economy for I don't know how many years. Would like to do some research on that. All I know is that you hear these names, and then you see these people on the Democrat side of the aisle literally screeching about billionaires, unelected billionaires. Well, they have let George Soros, an unelected billionaire, destroy our country almost single-handedly. They certainly let him do what he wants. And Bill Gates. Did you elect Bill Gates to do anything? How about Fauci? Do you remember seeing him on the ballot? Yeah. Say what you want about me, but your jig is up. And the American people are hearing the truth now, and we're getting very angry. We elected Donald Trump to be our president for this reason alone. Because we knew that the previous administration was not only illegitimate, had not only stolen the election as we were sleeping, then blamed us and called us all insurrectionists when we questioned it. Well, they stole our money. It's just despicable. And people like me, people going into our 60s, our 70s, our 80s, we're the ones who have been funding this worldwide scam with our hard-earned tax dollars. They literally robbed the most productive people on the planet, the American citizens, before all of this nonsense came down and children were starting to be told that they didn't even know what gender they were. Fauci gave HIV to people. Yes. There's a big HIV drug theft going on. DOGE uncovered that. So, like, millions of dollars being sent somewhere to fight AIDS. When really, U.S. aid is the AIDS of our country. It is a disease. And we need to find a cure and fast. Didn't they just rob us blind, Laura? Didn't they just? And every time you see a Democrat screaming about Elon Musk being a billionaire, you can be pretty sure that that Democrat is a criminal. Elon's not a criminal. Elon doesn't need to steal anything. And neither does President Trump. They want to give us back our country. This whole woke movement has stolen way more from us than our money. It's stolen our lives, our livelihoods, our children. We have been suffering so terribly, so terribly. And many of us no longer have relationships with younger people in our lives because they were fed this line of bull. And those who got government jobs and are now losing them are angry because they had such a sweet, sweet ride on that government cheese. I'm told that I can get free health insurance from the government. And I never would look into it because I don't want to take anything from the government. I could be so poor I could not even afford cat food to eat, but I won't take money from the government because I can't stomach it anymore. I had to do it when I was a young mom and I had children, and I actually had to go on welfare and food stamps because I had a husband who didn't want to provide for his family. He preferred to drink. And I did the best I could. I was a journalist, but they don't pay real journalists very much. No, they don't. No, it turns out that if you are willing to lie and willing to promote an agenda, then you get paid a lot of money. But people like me, just going to school board meetings and municipal meetings and taking out my little notebook, writing down my notes and writing my stories about this is what they said and this is what happened. They don't care about people like me. Actually, they do care. They want me to shut up. Because I don't get paid to lie. You can't pay me to lie. It's not worth it to me. It's not worth it. Lies and crime have literally destroyed this country. And if you live in a world where you got to function on lying to everyone you know, what are you doing? What are you doing? I do hope to become a White House correspondent. I can't wait for the Secret Service to investigate me. But on the other hand, I'm a little bit, I don't have anything to hide. I bear my whole life. For the Beach Report, for my fans, my friends. I'm an open book. Literally an open book. And write books about my own life. I don't know. Maybe I'm like the highest form of a narcissist. I don't know. But yeah, having welfare as a single mom to me was like the lowest of the low. And now my kids are like, Mom, you should go in welfare. No, I don't accept it. I don't accept that I'm poor. I'm not poor. I'm one of the wealthiest people I know, but I just don't have any money. But I do have my credibility. I have my integrity. And I have Jesus. Hi, Danny. I have everything a person needs to have a happy life. And I have a happy life. I really do. But I am crying inside for my fellow Americans, especially those who lost their lives because of greed. Like my husband, for one. He died of prostate cancer. And when he died, he was penniless. He had nothing, next to nothing, worse than nothing. He didn't even have his health. When he died, all the doctors around him that were treating him, they got paid. I think the payout was more than $1 million. That was the cost of all the medical care for my husband with his cancer that nobody cured. Nobody made it better. I tried to make it better. I rubbed that man down every day of the rest of his life. For 3 years, I rubbed him down. He was in so much pain, and the only thing that would bring him any comfort was my touch. I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid in money, that is. I got paid in love. And I think love is the greatest payment you can get. You could be super wealthy and you can have nobody like you. So there's that. At least I have a lot of friends. And I have family. Yes, and I'm rich in spirit with my Creator. So there's that. So you can steal from the American people, but the thing about us is that we are some of the toughest dogs out there. We will fight. We will fight for the right, not just to party, but really we want to save our country. And that's why we came out in force and voted for President Trump, knowing that you Democrats were going to cheat. We knew it. We knew it, and we beat you at your own game. So there's that. We did the same thing to you in 2015, or 2016, when President Trump first got elected. We did that to you too. We played the game. We knew you would cheat, and you did. And you believed you would win, but you didn't win because you didn't know how many of us there are. There are more of us than there are of them. So instead of listening to Jerome Powell, I want to read you something. So those of you who follow me know I have friends who, my friend Celso he lost one of his legs. He served this country. He was born in Cuba, and he's an American citizen. And every day they send a text to the people they love. And I am one of those people, so I'm super, super honored for that. And they always started out this way. Good morning, friends and patriots. So I'm going to read you today's Good Morning, Friends and Patriots. Laura's chemo, $43,000 a trip. Sick. All right, listen to this. So now we are in the 4th week and the 3rd day. The party is still going and the resistance is losing its mind. All of the usual suspects, double D Democrats, can't get their footing on anything. These Marxist politicians have an ideology that started in the 1960s. These Marxists, they started feminism, the feminist movement, sexual liberation, gay rights, and it all started in the West. But now with the modern Democrats, now adding gender confusion, baby killing, and the trans movement, we are at the point of being worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. How depraved can we get before God has had enough of this? We are facing multiple battles in humanity and society. The family is being attacked by Marxist ideology and values. Folks get involved. There's enough garbage out there for you to choose a battle that you are willing to confront. Whether it's speaking out publicly, as I do, holding religious institutions accountable to speak the truth by not supporting them with your dollars until they speak truth to power, whether it's voting for moral people that stand for godly values. It is time that we make phone calls to hold our leaders accountable in religious institutions, government, and their stupid movements by countering them at every turn. You're right, Laura. These people that started this country in which you enjoy and were born into, lucky enough to, or just happen to be lucky enough to come into, were patriots who wanted to be free from tyranny and kings. They have what most people today don't have. Courage. Courage. I feel like singing from The Wizard of Oz right now, but I will continue. You have to stand for something. People don't have courage, and they don't stand for anything. There's strength in numbers, and courage is contagious because they knew if it didn't come out victorious, they would all have been hung. We have strength in numbers, and courage can be contagious if enough people stand for truth and God. Look at what we can do, and look at what we did in November of 2024, our last election. There are strength in numbers. We accomplished what we wanted. We wanted President Trump back in charge. But Trump is only one man fighting for all of us, and he cannot do it alone. I'm asking that you get in the fight to do something. Don't just stand around and do nothing. Like in football, if your team is part of the 11 on the field, hit someone to accomplish victory. And if you're on the sidelines or in the stands, you get loud. I don't know anything about football, so I'm just winging that one. For God's sake, just do something. A great friend of mine told me if you stand around long enough, they eventually will start throwing dirt on top of you because they think you're dead. Is that what you want? God bless. Be safe and get loud. Don't be silent any longer. You know, they have called us deplorable, smelly Walmart shoppers, Christian nationalists, garbage, racist, stupid, and that we belong to a cult. Even someone on here said I'm in a cult. And that we are privileged. Are you kidding me? At least we haven't been called. All right, here's the last thing I'm going to say. Can you hear me? They don't call us stupid because you know what? You can't fix stupid. All right, you guys. I'm going to say ciao for now. I'll see you on the next Beach Report. Have a wonderful rest of your day.